We don't know our history, we don't know who we are or what to do.
Dr. Newton will be examining the whole issue of nurturing and the issue that nurturing in it implies not only the question of growth and healing and development, but the whole issue of protection. And we'll be extending that in terms of black male-female relationships on the understanding that the issue of making life difficult for black males is perhaps an initial phase in the orchestration to get to the protector and the developer, i.e. the black woman. So if they come for one in the morning, you can be sure by evening, let alone night, the rest will be there. Without much more ado, once again, to the very brilliant and extremely accomplished Dr. Patricia Newton, our new queen. Let's give her a hand. Whoa. Whoa.
Hotep. Abanagari. Nangadef. Word up, y'all. It is indeed, as always, a pleasure for me to come to the UK, and particularly to this kind of a forum. You can turn the lights out, because we're going to go from darkness to light in one swoop. You can turn all the lights out, and if you all go to sleep, you're on your own. And it's always a pleasure to be here to talk about issues relevant to our survival. I think what has happened this morning with Brother Paul and Sister Maremba has really set us clear about what it is we need to be dealing with. The enemy is among us, with us, lying in bed with us. Personal company excluded, of course. And as she talked about, one of my favorite writers happens to also be one of hers, and I found out also Sister Abena Walker, who's speaking tomorrow, she and Brother Wade have a favorite writer that's also my favorite writer. Isn't it wonderful how great minds run along the same plane? And so from 2000 Seasons, Brother Armour sets the pace that I'd like to add to and continue on Sister Maremba's discussion. Now, you know that I'm supposed to talk about Aset as a great protectress. And as I told you last year, and I'll tell you every year that I ever speak to you, it doesn't matter what the topic is. There only is one topic, and it's called Free Your Mind So Your Bad Black Ass Will Follow. That's the topic, no matter what it is, okay? So now that we're clear on where we're going, let me carry forward. Brother Armour quotes, and I quote, "How indeed would a living understanding come to those who have fled knowledge of the source, and those running back to the source in their new desperation? Have they not more fear of death's horror than love of life? Whiteness indeed they have known, but of their own blackness they have yet to learn. You who yearn to be hearers, you who would see, you the utterers of the future, this is not the season of contempt. Look upon those it is in whose nature is to wait upon death, to create in them a need to know life. Look upon them this season, but do not look too closely. Say then the multitude is noisier after the shaking and shattering knowledge on the pale road of death. Are your ears also dead? This noise is not the recent uniform cacophony of death victorious, death alone ruling. No, the customary noises of triumphant death have the tone of lies to some of our ears. In such a season, a voice informed with knowledge of the way, that voice whose utterance is inseparable from life, that voice will and should be heard. For there are ears straining against the loud nonsense of the destroyers, ears that have heard all the sweet and easy sounds of death and found them to be false. Would you lock your gift away in silence? Know then that in the absence of the utterer's work, the carnage will be long and pure. And not the wisest mind can, in the absence of the utterer's work, trace in all our flowing blood one broken ring of meaning. For those returning, salvaging blistered cells from death, and those advancing, still hypnotized by death, in the absence of the utterer's work, what will they be but beasts devouring beasts, zombies fighting zombies, a continuation along the road of death in place of regeneration, the rediscovery of our way, the only way. Leave the killer spokesman, the predator spokesman, leave the destroyer spokesman to cast contemptuous despair abroad. This is not our vocation. This will not be our utterance. It is our destiny then not to flee the predator's thirst, not to seek hiding places from destroyers left triumphant, but to turn against these predators advancing, to turn against these destroyers and bending all our soul against their thrust, turn every stratagem of the destroyer against themselves to destroy them. This is our destiny, to end the destruction utterly, to begin the highest, the profoundest work of creation, the principle and essence of a set, the work that is inseparable from our way, inseparable from the only way, the way of living. There has been no useless explosion of rage animating from us. Senseless acts we do not need to continue. Our life's work should be of spirits, opening and remembering the way, capable already of visions of its rediscovery, willing and determined to make it a living way again. I start that out because, to me, that is the beginning of the essence of creation, to begin to create new life. The essence of our set is the essence in reality of us beginning to understand that in order to create, we must first protect. In order to have a place for life to spring forward, we must make it safe for it to grow. We plant the seed, we give it water, but it must be in a safe place. Is your place safe today? Is your place nurturing and environmentally pure? Is your place in the heart and the temple of yourself as opposed to just the macro system of the larger universe? Is it safe? Do you feel safe today? Do you feel safe today? Y'all talking to a black woman. Wait a minute. Let me stop. Let me get real clear. You all have learned to tighten your anal sphincter muscles and be able to sit straight in these chairs and nod your head. You talking to a black woman, you talk back to me, please. Thank you. Because I won't go any further without you. So that when we talk about women and we talk about nurturing, we're not talking about just taking care of men, y'all sisters. Like the sisters say, but it's me pays your car note, your rent, your food, and your clothes, but you still go off with somebody else. Y'all don't have anybody that does that around here, because all your men here are serious men in elevating black women, in elevating their own consciousness, or understand the principles are set, right? On the other hand, when we talk about black women and our set principles and protection, we're not talking about just riding your back, brothers. We're not talking about just making life hard for you. But as I understand it, the essence of male productivity in the creation process is to have a hard-on. Is that not correct? And as such, in the environments in which we live, it's been kind of puny, weekend over, you know. And as a result of that dynamic and the reality, you get mad at us when we talk about stand up straight, do what's right, come back to the spiritual essence that is lost as to what Sister Marimba talked about earlier. We want to make you men. And in order to do that, we have to be more than pussies. Now, for some of you who thought with all these European degrees that you were going to hear an intellectual pontification about our set, you can leave. The other aspect of protection and going back to the returning to the feminine principle, the principle of the lack of violence and only doing damage when it is required for the protection of your species, for the protection of your people, and it don't mean kicking your sister's butt. And sisters, it does not include that because he does beat you up, that's synonymous with love. That is what Sister Marimba talked about, the distortion of the symbols so that you're so confused that you think kicking you in the butt is synonymous with loving you forever. It's a sick process. And it's a process that has occurred that created for our set and the feminine principle these present realities for African women. That they are inundated with the reality that to balance the wheel requires the unification of a masculine and a feminine principle. But look here, how can we create in the absence of male energy, in too much masculine energy of European nature going awry, creating for us men who don't even like women, women who don't even like men. Y'all sound real familiar. Creating for us situations where we have to slip through the back door sometime and get a little piece. Creating for us. Can I get a witness? Creating for us situations where our men folk are locked up in these jails, some as acts of political aggression, some as acts of absolute bullshit, because they are using a system to create for themselves a need to violate our people. And so, what am I saying? I'm saying that here we are, we Ossetian principles, we who the world needs to understand, victimized as we think by fetal experimentation, by genocide, by all kinds of approved rape, Norplan, any number of variables of things in the present environment that go away from the act of creativity, being led by the issues of the destroyers, being led for us to believe that they constitute normalcy. And in terms of when we feel from coming from the depths of our being, some other energy source that says, this doesn't make any sense, we are told that something is wrong with us. In my profession, we are told that you're crazy. But is this crazy? Is that crazy? The fact that there is no cure for AIDS, the fact that AIDS is created, a man-made entity that now gets us at the very essence of our being. This is the opposite of life. This is the beginning of death. The fact that we live in a society that makes us think that matriarchy is synonymous with sin, death, and corruption. Name me one society that didn't start with a woman as people, and I will name you a society that doesn't exist. And so as such, we run around talking about, oh, we are going to be black now, we are going to this conference, and we're going to learn all about these wonderful things, and these things, excuse me, and these people are coming over, and they're going to tell us all about ourselves. And I was reminded of this piece that said, somebody almost run off with my stuff. We supposed to get righteously fired up, but it's usually too late. And she says, stealing my shit from me. Don't make it yours, make it stolen. Somebody almost run off with all my stuff. And I was standing there, looking at myself the whole time. We've been standing there, looking at ourselves the whole time after the psychology of the Europeans been laid down. We've been standing there buying into it, when inside our brain is something that beats and knows better. The issue of cognitive dissonance. It knows better, but we choose to ignore it. According to the laws of nature, that your gut reactions inside of you tell you when you're in danger. It's called the fight-flight mechanism. It goes into play. It erupts a series of neurotransmitters and hormones that make you ready for battle. But when that gets deregulated, for whatever reason, you are not fit for battle on this plane or the other. And so then we look at the European, taking our image and prostituting it, prostituting us, and doing all of the things that we find offensive. And look like what the sister says. I've been wearing what you look like for years. We don't want to look African. We don't want to be African. We want to be, as the sister said earlier, the best lawyer or the best doctor. We don't want to be anything that we think is related to something that is not acceptable to a European dynamic. And because of that, we are confused. And in the confusion, our enemy is able to capture and control the essence of our being. I'm reminded of the proverb that the Yoruba say, may my outer head not spoil my inner head. And so, in terms of this reality, let us take a look at this guardian position. Barishango in America has called the African woman the original guardian angel. What does that mean, the original guardian angel? Guardian what? For whom? Because what has transpired in this whole original guardian angel process is a process where we end up protecting our enemy's children and cussing our own out. It's a process by when you go to the market, you see black women yelling and screaming and calling their children everything under the sun and expect them to come out and not have contempt for them. You are a fool. And you deserve to have your butt kicked by your children. Deserve it. And so, you know, I have another name. It's called Sekhmet. Sekhmet was the fire-breathing goddess that kicked off all of the enemies of God. Well, maybe that's so, but one of the things that Sekhmet's principles were is the old principle that we all stand by. If I brought you here, I can take you out. And subsequently, we brought everybody into this world, and it is our duty, African women, to make sure and ensure that everything and everybody and every action that we take is in the nature of creating a spiritual world for our people to flourish. And if we do anything else but that, we are being blasphemous. We are being blasphemous. So in the nature of our set to protect, you gotta kick a little butt every once in a while. Every once in a while, you might have to say to somebody, you better get back. And if you're doing wrong in the neighborhood, in the hood, yo, baby, in the hood, if you're doing wrong, I shouldn't have to wait for European justice. We have to create a world that is as it should be. You see, God gave us this world, gave it to us. We abdicated our moral, ethical, spiritual responsibilities, and as such, we suffer. And because of that, we are paying. It is our duty, it is our responsibility this time to get it right, because we can't come back again, because there ain't going to be no world left for us to come back again to. So we have to get it right. And in getting it right, it means we have to understand that the role of creativity and creation implies by its very nature that I must protect each and everything that God gave me. Because if you don't do it, you're supposed to lose it. And that is exactly the case. We have lost respect for ourselves. Our children have lost respect for us. We have no institutions that we call our own in large measure that we can use to survive any war. We are dependent beings, appendages of a system that has as its ultimate end the elimination of your hind parts. Okay? And because of that reality, it is our duty, African women, to rise up. And we might have to flex a little muscle every once in a while, too. And we might have to kick a little behind every once in a while, too. And if you, as an African person, come to our neighborhood and you bring your drugs and you bring your prostitution and you bring your low base kinds of thinking, and what is this I heard about last night? Jungling type of dancing. It is our duty to kick you out because I know where you live. I know where your children go to school. I know where your wife shops, and I should deal you before anyone else deals you, because it is my right as the creator of the universe to ensure that our children come into this earth nurtured and planted. So if I bring them here, it becomes my responsibility to make this world safe for them. What have you done for me lately, baby, is a common song. I want to know, what have you done lately for the salvation of your soul and your children? Your children kick you in the face. They call you all kinds of names because they should. Uh-oh, you're teaching disrespect. No, I'm not. You have not been respectful. And so forth, they give you exactly what you asked for. They're your accurate reflections. They reflect everything that you give. You forget that, don't you? You say, do as I say, but not as I do. And you do every darn thing under the sun. Do some things that I know some hell raisers and devils won't even do. You just get everything so good because that melanin makes you learn it well, and then you can't let it go. And so in the context of protection, we have to understand that in each of the traditional older societies, there has always been a female concept of protection. In India is Kali, but you know Kali as the great destroyer. You don't understand that she represents the essence of earth, that which brings life forward and also that which destroys. In order for something new to be born, something old has to what? What? And what's got to die is your apathy and your passivity and your understanding that there is not only just a war against women, there is a war against women. The European woman has already been defeated in large measure because she has bought into the system and allows herself to be looked at as an appendage of her man. You didn't have such a luxury, thank God. And as a result of that, you've had to work and sacrifice and learn how to do. But that's to your advantage. Now what you must do is do for self, as opposed to doing for everybody else. And so what has happened is that there is an all-out war now with the new Republican administration in America on a war on welfare women, as though somehow welfare is synonymous with being black, when there are far more European women on the welfare rolls in America than there are black women. But because we have a society where we've abdicated the fact that children are all our children in the village, and that we have a responsibility to take care of all our children in the village, that if the woman that if the woman does have the baby and the man is not present, then we must still step forward. There has to be a masculine energy and a feminine energy. There has to be a balance. There has to be a flow. There has to be a unification and a personification of that duality to make our people whole. So since we have an overpreponderance of white male energy destroying the world, there must be a return to the feminization of the psyche, not to flip your wrists, but to return to the feminization of nurturing and creativity. And so now what has occurred is there is a move in America to talk about taking welfare children and sending them off to orphanages, to put them in orphanages, as though, and to stop these women from having babies, and as though to make their money, their monthly checks, be dependent upon whether or not they have any more babies. And if they don't have any more, they get a stipend. And if they do, they get cut off. That's prostitution of a different order. And we buy into that. I have plenty of mothers who bring their 13 and 14-year-old girls in for psychiatric and psychological evaluation so they can go get Norplan for birth control. 13 years old and 12-year-olds and their mothers, the mothers of creativity, bring their children in to get Norplan. As though somehow, I can't stop them. They just got to go and do all these different things all over the place. I said, where were you? Where were you when the child came into the world, that you were abdicated your responsibility so that you now see her only as a fucking machine? Where were you at the void? And he doesn't have any understanding of his role as a man, and you see him only as a dropper of a seed? A seed that don't even have no place to be planted. It makes no sense. And so we have large European companies paying for Norplan to be distributed freely through the health departments of American cities as a charitable contribution. So that the war now has become the war against women through men. Well, let me make that very clear. You see, to attack the black male is the first line of defense, because when they attack the black male, you theoretically have no protection. But honey, go back and look through history. We got all kinds of women who fight. All kinds of women, from Yacinta to Nzinga to Sekhmet, to all of these women who fight. And we have learned by modeling and adapting a European standard to be wimpy women. You didn't come from no wimpy stock. Wimpy women. And so we keep looking for somebody to take us off in a white horse into the land. Somewhere beyond the rainbow, where we will be eating milk and honey forever. Oh, Lord, help me. Y'all make me sick. And then when we don't get it, we said, I've been denied my rights, and therefore I'm taking your behind to court. Well, let me tell you what Macon said about court. It's a place where Jesus Christ and Judas would be equals, with the betting odds being in favor of Judas. You go to court. You're going to take your claim to the law created by your enemy to justify him being the greatest ripper of the world. You're going to take your claim because you feel your respect has been stolen. How you going to outdo the thief, the biggest thief of the world? He stole you. You Exhibit A. Like the man said, you going where? Where you going? To the courts, to the rail. So what am I saying? I'm saying that in the principles of our set, as we deal with protection, there is a war. There is a conspiracy, true enough, to deny that conspiracy, but the war is being perpetrated as though it is against black men only. It is against all people of color. All people who come closest from that seed. And so I've defined this war as the black queens versus the white supremes, the white supremacists. And that we are talking about a war for land, a war for control and domination of everything from property to your neurons. And a war that requires us to deal effectively with controlling of what's going on. This is the war of the queens and the war of the white supremes. It is that war that Yoruga speaks about. It is that war that we have all grown up in, to the point that we forget that we're in a fight. We think it's just happening because this is the way the nature of the thing is today, you know. And not only that, we look at the victims and ask them what they did wrong to create the problem. We say, you must have done something for them people to fire you off that job, girl. You've been working for them people a long time. You must have done something wrong. It couldn't be the fact that maybe you got tired. Maybe you just got sick and said to one day, I've been giving my energy to these people to make them millionaires. Pray God when I'll give it to myself. If I've got all these skills to make all this money for everybody else, when will I apply it to my own factory? When will I have a cooperative of working women and working men and hire my own people? When will I study a really true liberation curriculum? A curriculum that requires planting the seed and holding the powder. You understand what I mean by holding the powder? The gun. The gun. Oh, you're talking violence. There can be no more violence in this world than has been perpetrated against our souls. And still it's not enough for you. It's not enough for you. Because if what I say offends you, if it makes you really angry, I can't believe it. Because there's nothing I can say that can ever do to you any more harm than what the European has already done to you. He has taken our sacred places and converted them into gambling casinos in Las Vegas, Nevada. He has taken our images and converted them into temples where people draw money and sell women and sell all kinds of prostituting events. This is the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. This is not Egypt. He make myself crystal clear, unless you forget. Egypt don't have no blue eyes among Haramakan. This is what happens to our image. Where is the Vatican as a gambling casino? Where is that? Where is Westminster Abbey as a gambling casino? But no, here are our images, and we have done nothing. We have said nothing. We have black people going to Las Vegas in droves, church groups going to gamble. It's the truth, y'all know it's the truth in America. Church groups going to gamble. I suppose they prayed for a special blessing to get all this money from the Lord. Going to gamble in a place that has taken your image of that which is spiritual and desecrated it. And you don't even see the symbolic, you don't even understand it. And so because you don't understand it, it reminds me very much of the new scientific era, the brain that has absolutely misplaced its body. There's a term for it in neuroscience called agnosia. Means that you don't know what's right and what's left, you don't recognize it. And it usually occurs in people after strokes. And it's usually, for example, if the stroke is on the right side of the brain, they don't have any recognition for a while of the left side of the body. They don't see it. It happens maybe sometimes 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes even longer. Ours has been 400 plus years of not recognizing the issues related to the right side and the left side. When the sister was talking earlier about the two systems, one cognitive and one affectual, she was talking in a very general term about the right and left functions of your brain. The brain that has displaced the body. The body goes and does all kinds of evil and vile and vicious things in the pursuit of pleasure, in the pursuit of money, in the pursuit of pursuitness. And the brain is somehow trying to make it all make sense, because the brain still phylogenetically operates to save you. It phylogenetically still operates as a protector, as the great protector that it came down through with from the ages, from the diencephalon to the mesencephalon to the present cerebral cortex. It operates automatically to keep your ass in check and out of trouble. Unfortunately, excuse my French, but I had to make it real. And so ultimately what happens is that we disconnect. We cut off those neuronal pathways that operate primarily in the parietal lobe and in the limbic system of the brain. We cut them off, and we get overridden by all these other inputs that the sister has talked about. We get overridden in such a way that we forget who we are, why we are here, and where we're going. And as a result of that, I lost my hat down. As a result of that, our people are left stagnant. So I remember when I go to Africa, a lot of times when I go to some of the healing ceremonies, and let me say that I have permission to show these slides before I go any further, that we often think about many things in our society that we've come to accept as normal things that were not considered normal by our ancestors. Many of these things sometimes involve the way the nature of the relationship of the family is, the way the nature and relationship of the man-woman relationships are. We even are taught now that it is biologically a reality that men are supposed to can love men, and then women are supposed to and can love women. And we do believe that, and it is in all the scientific literature, although it did not appear in the African literature until the new period, not the old, not the middle, but the new period. The period that came about after the invasion of foreigners with foreign principles. Now, I'm not gay bashing here. Let me make something real clear for y'all. I am talking about the reality of a principle that is against the creative energy of life, the principle of asset. Let me make it real clear. And as a result of that, we have to ask ourselves, why did our ancestors write in the book of Coming Forth by Day, in hymn 125, verse 127, I have not lain with man, therefore I am willing and free to be with God. One man talking about not sleeping with another. Why is it that in the Osiris myth, why is it that in the stories that came up out of the Old Kingdom, we do not hear about Set sodomizing Horus until the New Kingdom? Because it was not in the psyche. It was not there. Had it been there, it would have been in the terracotta. It would have been on the drawings of the cave. It would have been some record for us to know it's not there. I am not putting you down for whatever you do with your life. You're adult and free and have free will. I'm only talking about the essence of the principles of whether your free will is congruent with the lifeblood of our people. That's all I'm speaking of. You do what you like. But when we have to pick and choose, I know where I'm going to put you, and you do what you like. And so what am I saying? I'm talking about the essences of being, the essences of life. The energy that comes forth is an energy that regenerates, that recreates, not one that is just, as Brother Noble said to me yesterday, it's just about pleasure only. Pleasure only, not about what the real principles are, and that's living and breathing and creating and becoming. becoming back one with the universe. You see, because whether you want to believe it or not, you are a microsystem, reflection of a larger macro system. There are 9 organ systems in your body, 9 planetary systems in the universe. It takes the Earth 8 3/4 minutes for the sun to hit it on its axis, and it takes your blood circulation 8 3/4 minutes to go through your body and breathe life into you. You are the essence of God, and it is your behavior that brings you down to the lower level. God is in you. The way to know God is to study man. Not this man today, but that's the way the ancestors taught it. It taught us that for all this academic knowledge, it has no meaning if you can't apply it. You can't feed yourself, you can't protect your children, and you can't even raise your consciousness. You can raise a whole lot of hell, but you can't raise no consciousness. And so the point is that I remember when I went to Africa, one of the things that struck me when I first was going to the traditional healing systems as a student, as a devotee and an inductee into a psychological healing system in Senegal called Ndep. And one of the things it does, it deals with the transforming of energy in a different way than what I had studied as a physician. The slide before you is of the high priestess of Ndep, Mama Fatusek. And Mama Fatusek showed me a special ceremony. I'm talking to the sisters of Aset now. And in this particular ceremony, regardless of whether you believe it or not, they had a woman in the community, in the village, who they felt was exhibiting too much masculine behavior. Too much masculine behavior. Now, it wasn't that she was exhibiting aggressive behavior on her job. And it wasn't that she was fighting off the enemy. It was the other masculine behavior. And they defined that as abnormal. You may not define it as abnormal, but they did, okay? And as such, in the process of healing, there is a war that has to take place. So in the context of the traditional ceremony, of which of course I cannot go into, there became the creation of an alter ego. The alter ego that had a more masculine appearance. And there was this woman who was possessed. Possession is what they called it when she behaved like a man. They called it possession. And in that process, there became this duo between the alter ego of the male image and the female. Y'all follow me? Yeah. I just want to make sure we're together. And in the process of this duo, for who of this energy, what would survive in this woman, there was a ritual that went on for many, many, many hours. I mean, it seemed like an eternity to me. I was too frightened to leave. I had to go to the toilet. I was too frightened to leave. Didn't know what was going to happen. And in the process of that, ultimately, she was knocked down. She was knocked down, and the riding of this excess masculine energy was being removed from her in the process. Are y'all following me? And moved from her in the process, so that in the end, the alter ego manifested herself as him, and the woman was free. Are y'all with me on that? The woman was freed up from her overriding of masculine energy, which was felt to be at that point abnormal for the good and continuation of the village. Which brings me to the point that if our behaviors, for whatever they may be, are not in the best interest of the village, they have to be curtailed regardless of what your desires are. Regardless of what you may want to be, it is your sacrifice and your duty to do it. So whatever you may be craving, you must learn to put it in check. If it's not going to be for the good of our people, then you are the enemy within the ranks. And you got to be dealt first. It is a Ma'atian principle. It is an Asetian responsibility. And so one of the things that happens in that process of healing is something that doesn't happen as a spiritual process, something that doesn't happen in our situations. First of all, there's a personalization. In other words, there's a coming in and identifying and a caring and compassion. They didn't put the sister out. They didn't call her out of her name. They didn't make all kind of negative comments because of her behavior. They said, this is a problem, and she is part of us. And because she is part of us, it has to be worked out by us. And then the next thing was the ritual sacrifice, the ritual ceremony, the ritual dance, all of these things that take place as a part of the custom and cultural aspects to reinforce the need for the group to stay cohesive and to have one major identity, one goal, one common purpose, that is survival and benefit. Y'all got it? Then there's a use of herbs, certain ritual herbs, because it takes life to beget life. And so that the herbal process of incorporating herbs is a life-giving process. You wouldn't give them a dead cow trying to get rid of some kind of energy. All you'd be doing is giving them dead carcass. And so what you do is bring life. And then finally, in the end, there is always the acknowledgement of a force, a spiritual power higher than all of us, that must make the ultimate decision about whether we are to survive or whether we are not to survive. But since the reality is that we are the reflections and manifestations of God, that gives us a great deal more responsibility than we've been willing to assume. Now, therefore, there are certain values in the African community. I use African American because I did this slide in the States. First of all is the issue of God. There's a spiritual connection that we all have. There's an educational process where we must learn ourselves. Remember what Arma says. Of their whiteness, they have all the knowledge, but of their blackness, they have yet to learn. And so we have yet to learn what it means to be a real family, what it means to have pride, what it means to have true political power. Because political power is not just voting for the Democratic Party or the Conservative Party or some other kind of party. Real power is understanding the nature of our life force and building every institution to continue that force. And economic power being a manifestation by which we do it. Make no mistake, y'all, I ain't talking about being poor. Here, I'm not talking about poverty, because poverty doesn't offer you any opportunities. If you have money, but we must understand our nature and relationship to money. Money offers you a choice. You don't have none, you don't got none, okay? And so as a result of that, we must learn to amass the money to use it for the benefit of the village. Village being the world where we have African people. But we have not done that. We have allowed ourselves to be very much like the prostitute. We have a common goal. We screw for money. And so as a result of that, we act like we don't always know what to do. I'm reminded of this word that came from Stephen Bannon. I'm like a mosquito in a nudist camp. I kind of know what to do, I just don't know where to get started. Well, let me offer you some suggestions as I get closer about where you're going to get started. One of the first things in Asa Hilliard's book, The Maroon Within Us, talks about some of the uses of this knowledge from ancient Kemet. First, there has to be a source of philosophy, the philosophical base. Sister Ani alluded to it. There must be an African world view, not an African interpretation of a European worldview that you're going to live by. You need to understand it, but you got to have your own view. The things and terms must be determined by you, not by your enemy. There must be a foundation for group unity and identity. Yes, we have to do individual things to improve our individual selves, but it must be done in the context of our communities. It must be done in the context of us amassing large amounts of human capacity to create a new world that will save everybody, even our enemies, unfortunately. But it is us that have the power to do it. There must be a source of resistance to alien domination. An alien can be anything from the babysitter that's the TV set, to the boss on the job, to the institutionalized racism. We as protectors, we as creators must offer a cohesive, concentrated, continuous assault against alien intervention and domination. It is the queens versus the white supremes. There must be a basis for interdependence. We must relate to each other. We must be sure that if you are doing something, I should help you so that you can help me. We must begin to relate to our creativity. We are born with it, but we suppress it in booze and cigarettes, y'all, all out there in the hall, creating cancer sticks and making your enemies rich. You don't own no cigarette factories and no tobacco plantations. I ain't trying to get personal, but cigarettes, nicotine, caffeine, these things all destroy melanin centers. They all destroy them. But then you don't need them anymore because you've acclimated to the larger culture. So that in these contexts, and I'm almost getting near the end, these virtues must be taught to our children, but first we got to learn them ourselves. There's a thing over there that talks about the life cycle. We got people that can't teach rites of passages to children because they never had none for themselves. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what it's like to be an adult. They don't know what an adult role model is. They have no idea what the principles are by which one stands firm to create a better world order. So they must control their thoughts, control their actions, must be steadfast, must have an identity with the spiritual life, must have a mission. You didn't just come here because you're here and to occupy space. In the Global Report 2000, they define you as useless eaters. That's right. Useless eaters, to be destroyed and done away with. Useless eaters is what you're defined as. And the world is not going to have time to deal with useless eaters. You must have evidence of a mission and a call to a spiritual order. You don't have to attune to no rules made by no European government structure. You operate on principles higher than that. There are Ma'atian laws of universal order, of truth, of justice, of righteousness, reciprocity. These are supposed to be your rules. You act like they're a foreign language. You don't know what I'm talking about. You have no idea what I mean when I talk about reciprocity. Do you before you do me. That's reciprocity. That's real reciprocity. But you are taught, as Sister Miranda said, to turn the other cheek, to be passive. You hit me, I'm going to get you back. And I'm going to make sure that you don't get up. And we must be ready to do our thing. And don't bring me no piece of paper up here. I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to hurt you. Don't bring me no piece of paper up here. I'm going to finish. So that when we're talking about principles of African education, we must have a rejection of childish things. We must have elders that are worthy of being listened to. You see, the problem is, there's nothing wrong with listening to elders, but we got some elders out here today worth doodly squat. They do not know what the role of eldership means. They have no idea what it means to be an elder. We must have purification rituals. And we need a lot of purification in the Western world, you in the UK and us in America. And now we's in Africa. We need a lot of purification. There must be tests of our character. And we must pass those tests. And you must not be permitted to even be considered worthy of being a parent until you've passed those tests. What you trying to do, get in my bedroom? Huh? Yeah, really. Because somebody needs to get in there, because you don't apparently know what you're doing in there. Creating all these beings on the face of this earth that are not wanted, that are not loved. They're created out of lust and not out of love. In the ancient system, a child was created here before it was created here. So what you have walking on the face of these earth that looks like you that got brown skin, and you ask, sister, what's happening? They're not human. They're humanoids. They're not real. They're Memorex. They are people designed to look like you, who may be part of the plot. that can infiltrate, that can disintegrate, that can be agent provocateurs and saboteurs because they have lost their connectedness. And they have to be weeded out. And they have to be dealt with in a most auspicious way. What is in divine order, you must contribute to. There must be a special language that we use in order to communicate with each other. It is imperative that we teach our children African dialects. It is imperative that if they're going to learn English, and they're going to learn French, and they're going to learn whatever ever they're going to learn, that they must learn either Twi or Wolof or something, and I submit they ought to all know Medunete. They ought to all learn it, because that is a language that has some interesting symbolisms that get us to our third eye. When you really do study it, and you really do understand it, it is not as you see some of these things written. There are lots of other meanings. We must have names that signify each stage of our development. It's important in a name. It's not important to just be called any old thing. In each phase of your life, there must be some heralding, some announcement that you've reached that place. And there has to be some kind of resurrection of your soul. Lord, have mercy. Because I'm telling you, the way it is now, we in bad, bad shape. And finally, what should be these functions that Asa talk about of employment beyond the 3 R's? There must be modeling by our elders. There must be respect generated first from ourselves, then to each other. There must be a responsibility that we are the caretakers of the world and must stop anything and everything that seeks to destroy that world, whomever they may be. We must give each other feedback. It is important when you love somebody to give something back to them. We must recognize that we are the center of the universe and everything evolves around us. And we must be in love first with ourselves, which is the reflection of God. And then we, the center, operating as a large microsystem with all of the inputs and neurocircuitry and neuronal regulation coming from Ra, the sun, giving to us melatonin, serotonin, adrenaline, all these interactions that are equivalent to life. They must be regulated. They must be in harmony. They must be in sync with the universe. And they must be able to put us at peace in understanding the galaxy. We must understand that we can only continue in this struggle if we begin to preserve our own life and health. Some of the ways that we do that, as I get near the end, is that we each need to find a place of power. We got to locate some place that we can feel grounded, that we can have a prayer and meditate and become one with the universe, because we don't do that anymore. We do so many other things. We must be able to eliminate the use of certain kind of extraordinary things in our environment that are used to design to kill us. Microwave ovens, iridescent lights, all destroy melanin. We must be able to begin to understand the vibes that we feel, that we process them well. We can process them when we want to get over. We can process them with our lower nature. Why don't you process them with your higher consciousness? They're there. We must begin to reorder our lives. We must eliminate, as they say in addictions and recovery, people, places, and things. You must eliminate people, places, and things that are not consistent with life in your life. I don't care how hard it may be for you to do. It's got to be done. It's your duty. You must change your diet. Y'all got to stop eating them pork chops. That's right. I ain't getting personal. But y'all got to get that hog out of your life. Right. That lower animal creates base energy inside of you. You got to get rid of it. There must be some form of physical exercise in your body, because it must be allowed to integrate the mind with the spirit. Now, people got all kinds of ways they exercise. Sex is not the only exercise, ladies and gentlemen. So that we're clear. And grounding, there must be some place, some space, somewhere that you can secure yourself and anchor it to the world. If that place doesn't exist anywhere for African people, It is our Ma'atian duty and our Saturn responsibility to create it. And then we must rehearse. See, we've rehearsed dying. We've never rehearsed living. We must begin to have living sessions. Sessions where we rehearse what it's like to be alive, to be one with the universe. You think I'm crazy? You rehearse everything else. You be going on the phone. I'm gonna tell that woman when I call her. Let me get it straight. You go to the mirror, look up, just dress. But you don't rehearse life. And how you think you're gonna live if you don't rehearse life? I showed this slide last year, but what I didn't show about it last year was the real essence. People are creating life now. They are creating artificial life. That artificial life is devoid of spirit. But in the essence of understanding the exoteric as well as the esoteric meaning of this particular slide, these are European magazines. This is the Medunetta. This is melanin. This is DNA. This is electromagnetic energy. And this is where they start. Look at what they look like. But you must understand something about what this means. This presence of this African woman gets a different meaning when you superimpose the correct Medunetta on top of it. This says, I am a child of God, therefore I live. Understand, that's not artificial. God don't create nothing artificial. So when you put the Medunetta there, this is all the components and elements that we need for the regeneration of our souls. And then we have to also be a part of the system. You see, survival is not just being on attack from the outside. You've got to also be on the inside. So like the man says here, aha, working in the system. After what is done to your people, and what does the sister say? Checkmate. I'm going to be here because I'm going to get what you got, and at midnight I'm going to take it back to my people so I know what to do for you. Checkmate. Checkmate. So there must be some cheers that we lead ourselves by. There's the so-called race cheer. You can do anything anybody else can do. There's an economic policy that we must abide by. God helps those who helps themselves. There's a law of gravity. Girl, keep your head up and your skirt down. Now, wait a minute. Now, remember last year when I was here, what did I tell you? If you all remember, I said there must be a black woman pussy revolution. And I need to say it again. What do I mean by that? That means you are a queen. And that the only thing can enter a queen is a what? A king. And so therefore, that means you got to have some essence of demanding that he rise like Ra at the appropriate time. And the only way that he can be able to do that is to have certain things in check. Because if you demand that, your neighborhoods will be clean, your drugs will be out in the community, everything will work. Rising like Ra. It'll all be perfect. Because the ancestors knew that when you touch women, you have struck a rock and you have dislodged a boulder, and if you mess with us and our children, we'll crush you. We will crush you. And so where is heaven? Heaven, not only as Dr. Ben says, but heaven also, as Pepe II said first, is between the thighs and breast of an African woman. As you hold heaven up and create life, you must have an energy force that even is manifested when the people go to see the Heaven Express. What does God look like? Well, she is black. And not only is she black and she is beautiful. Because the revolutionary consciousness of a people is measured by the political maturity of its women. And so in the context of this political maturity, in the context of all that is real, all that is coming to being, we must deal with the fact that we have a mission. And that mission on this earth is a mission that we must all begin to share. And so I'm going to leave you with these words that deal with our becoming, coming from our ancestors. Hail, Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I might write my own story of my becoming. I stand before the masters, witnessing the creation where Ra in the morning, the sun rolled into being, where Osiris in the grave sped forth in the tomb of the white heat. Come into the air to the beginning of children. I too am longing for unity. I too hold the lance. We, your children, wait to come forth by the city of light. Hail, Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words of power that I might recall the years and weave together my history. I stand before the masters who witnessed the recollection of Osiris, who gathered from his backbone and set up the columns of carnelian and gold and lapis lazuli, who gathered his parts as Aset did, and Horus who avenged his death, who raised him up in his memory and cut the snakes out of the system. Horus rises through Aset. We stand before the masters who witnessed the Genesis, who are the authors of their own forms, who rolled into being and walked the dark, circuitous passages of their own becoming, who saw in their own eyes the destinies and shapes of things to come. And they are Jehuti, and they are Kepra, and they are Hetaru. The child becomes the man. We too are longing for change. We wait to come forth in the city of unified forms. Hail, Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may envision the course of events of my life that I must follow. I stand before the masters who attended the birth of Haru, who at his conception decreed on him a duty and right to avenge his father, who hid the child and Aset in the papyrus swamps, who shielded the infant in obscurity that he might grow in secret, who commanded the dreams wherein his father spoke of his destiny. And they are Horus and Aset, who conceived him in magic, and Happy, the voice of the Nile, who taught the child flux and flow. I too am man, longing to attain destiny. Hail, Jehuti, architect of truth. I sit in silence, Lady of the Flame. I sit in silence. That flickering tongue of the inner voice, the conscience, the self-prophecy, I sit in silence, waiting to come forth by day from the city of obscurity. I sit in silence. Hail, Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may intuit the symbols of my dream and command my own becoming. I stand before the masters who witnessed the workings of magic, who were with Aset the evening she became the swallow, and with her lamentations filled the air, who were with her as she shook down her black hair and veiled God's transformation in secret, who witnessed the conception of the divine child, though his coming was yet unrevealed. And they sit with our Set, who worked her charm, and Hathor, who interpreted the stars. And they are goddesses of beauty and wonder. I too sit and dream. I too believe in miracles to defy my enemy. I too believe in working the spells well to achieve them. We wait forth, O God, to come forth in the city of shredding the veil. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may speak the life of a man and give his story meaning. I stand before the masters who hear the songs and the histories of the dead, who decide which tales to hear, who judge which books to live, which ones become empty or full, who themselves are the authors of truth. And there is Aset, and there is Asaru, the authors of truth and divine intelligence. And when the story is written, and the end is good, and the soul of man is perfected, with a shout they lift him into heaven. I too am man longing for perfection. We wait, O God, to shine forth in the place of the setting sun. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may tell the truth of my own becoming. I stand before the masters who witness the judgment of souls, who sniff out the misdeeds and imperfections of lives and half-truths, who tell ourselves in the dark, and they are both Jehuti and Ambu, who saw the seed of the fields flourish, who saw the women baking bread, who came forth and pulled open the chest of Osiris as he pulls open our chest to live, and saw the heart beat to cleave and make way for the light coming. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may create myself from the dreams of my own becoming. I stand before the masters who witnessed the transformation of my body into a spirit. And they are Ra, the light of divinity. I come forth from death, shining in the face of white heat. We come forth in the doorway of transformation. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words and power that I may tell the heart of a song and give myself a strong beat. I too am longing for unity. I too am a soul opening up into light. We wait, O God, to come forth in your passageway. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Give me words of power before gods and goddesses and creatures of light and messengers of heaven. Give me unity of the heart, mind and spirit. Grant me love and light, an everlasting body. Grant me words of transformation and the will of the flesh to make things happen. I wait to come forth by day. My body turns to greening. I wait to come forth. I wait to give birth unto a dream, to give form to the place of my heart. We shall be men on earth, shaping the things of God. We are light entering into fire, coming forth and shining through darkness. May we continue to walk beneath the blue heaven, singing and singing and singing. and millions of times. Our enemies cannot kill us. We are the children of truth. We are the divinities of God. We come forth by day to spread the message, to let the world know that in the place of the rising and the setting sun, we will spring forth like the multitudes on this earth. Hail Jehuti, architect of truth. Life flows in our blood, in our being, as we open the way to become manifest with the universe. We know that we have become as we once came from. In the beginning, we shall again be in control of our destiny. We, the people and the children of the sun, we who know no truth other than God, we who hail Jehuti to become one again with the universe, we are your children. We seek to come home. We seek to be free. We seek never more to engage in wanton destruction of our people. We want to be in peace. We sit with our set and the beginning of time so that we are blessed to become one. Millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of time. I thank you. May Amen be satisfied.
I was being influenced by social forces that they couldn't even touch, couldn't even understand.
Mom, Dad, if you don't know our history, you don't know who we are or what to do.
I was being influenced by social forces that they couldn't even touch, couldn't even understand. I was being influenced by social forces that they couldn't even